The Reverend Dr. Bob Ball is a retired pastor who has become the unofficial chaplain to the residents of Crenshaw Retirement Community. He has been a friend to all as well as a source of spiritual strength. Following Dr. Ball's comments, you all know that Coach Royal was proud of his time during World War II as a member of the U.S. Army Air Corps. And following Dr. Ball, the UT Army ROTC will present the flag of his country to his wife Edith. But to continue our service this afternoon, here is Dr. Bob Ball.
For our scripture, I'd like to read one verse from the Apostle Paul's first letter to the Thessalonians. Brothers, we do not want you to be ignorant about those who fall asleep, or to grieve like the rest of men who have no hope. We do need to grieve, but we do not need to do it like those who have no hope. I've probably known about Darrell Royal longer than a good many of you here. I was a high school football player out in western Kansas when Darrell was an All-American at OU. And after one of our Friday night games, my buddy and I drove all night to go to Norman to see Darrell and the Sooners play the next afternoon. Needless to say, we were deeply impressed. Indeed, I was awed, and I still am. In one way or another, I think that's why we're all here today, to honor and pay homage to one of America's great athletes and coaches, and as I have come to know him personally, one of America's most authentic human beings. No one knows what awaits us on the other side of death. Our only hope, finally, is in the God who is revealed to us in Jesus of Nazareth, a God of compassion and mercy and unconditional love. Our hope is that the personal meanings that we have experienced in these lives God has given us is a meaning so real and so deep that it will not end, that it is eternal. That is our hope. Coach lived a life full of hope. Who of us can ever forget his instructing James Street to throw that long fourth down pass against Arkansas? It was a very risky, incredibly risky call with a national championship on the line. Just a couple of years ago, I was having breakfast with Coach, and he was recalling that moment when he had told James to throw that pass. And he said after he did, James looked back at him and he said, "Are you sure that's what you want us to do?" And Coach said he told him, "Damn right." Even in crucial situations, he was still committed to hope. Whether or not we're really aware of it or not, we cannot, any of us, live a fully authentic life without hope. And we seek many ways to find it. Many people look for their hope in their successes or in their popularity. Others say their hope is based in their children. We'd like to think that our hope is secure in our country and our form of government. And yet, whether we're willing to admit it or not, we all know that any of those can be taken from us. But Coach Royal did not base his hope on his successes or his popularity. One small thing that I know about him, I think, says so much about the depths of Coach Royal. He did not cling to his revered title of coach as belonging to him alone. He shared it almost every day with his good friend and buddy, Eddie Joseph. Before retiring, Eddie was one of the best-known high school coaches in Texas. And right up to the very end, which includes the last day of his life, When Coach Royal referred to or spoke to Eddie, he called him Coach. I can tell you quite honestly that Coach Royal certainly was the most authentic, approachable, humble celebrity that I have ever met. And even though that his personal life was filled with torrents of tragedy and sorrow and loss, his hope continued to remain true and strong. Even as his Alzheimer's worsened, Coach never once forgot who Edith was. For 68 years, she was his emotional and spiritual foundation. And as a result, his entire life was anchored in hope, a hope that was both real and contagious. He was widely loved, but he was also very capable of loving. Not in a showboating way or ostentatiously, but quietly and effectively. Coach Royal taught a lot of young men that they mattered, both on and off the field. It is both appropriate and necessary for us to grieve. Someone important and precious has been lost to us. But as Paul wrote in our scripture, we are not to grieve as those who have no hope. And there's a big difference, a big difference. The eternal God whose meaning radiated so fully in Coach Royal's life has given us abundant and personal reasons to go on hoping and living and loving, even as we grieve. So it was for Coach Royal, and so may it be for us.
Ben mentioned the Ben Willie Darrell, and there have been comments about the pickin' parties. Country music has always held a special place for Coach Royal, and what he admired most was the work of the songwriters, the poetry of the lyrics which told the story. We now direct your attention to the video for a very special tribute.
I'm Red Stegall, and if you're watching this, you and I have a mutual friend, Darrell Royal. Coach Royal is revered throughout Texas and across the country as a football coach. He perfected the wishbone offense and won 11 conference championships and 3 national championships in 20 years at the University of Texas. Darrell K Royal is widely respected for winning, but also because of how he did it, with integrity. You also remember Coach's love, respect, and appreciation for songwriters, especially Texas songwriters. He befriended singer-songwriters who performed around Austin and soon became friends with an individual from Abbott, Texas, by the name of Willie Nelson. Starting in the late 60s, Coach threw pickin' parties with the likes of Willie, Charlie Pride, Charlie Rich, Chris Christopherson, Rita Coolidge, Mickey Newberry, Red Lane, Larry Gatlin, Jerry Max Lane, Freddie Powers, Sonny Throckmorton, and many others, including yours truly. Remember the 35 years of the Darrell and Willie and Ben, Willie, and Darrell, the legends of golf picking parties, and all the other picking parties Coach and Edith have hosted over the years? These events were important to Coach Royal. He wanted these artists, the songwriters, to receive the recognition they deserved, and he wanted to share his love and appreciation for these unique wordsmiths with his friends. Few have done as much to support songwriters over the years as Darrell K Royal. God bless Texas, and God bless Darrell and Edith Royal.
When members of the Longhorn football teams in the late 1960s and early 1970s gathered in Austin to practice for their bowl game, they were often treated to a music session which featured a guitar picker who sang his own music that had made him popular in local clubs in Texas. Little could they have realized that that man would become perhaps the most recognized singer of songs the world has ever known. What they did learn, however, was that Willie Nelson and Darrell Royal had an uncommon friendship, a rare and lasting relationship that would stand for almost 50 years. Now, to sing for his friend, here is the legendary Willie Nelson. I think the program officially calls for the flag presentation at this time.
While I'm missing you, soon they'll be dismissing you from this heart of mine. They'll lead me safely through the night, and I'll follow as though blind. My future you're tightly clutched within. Healing hands of time.
Now the UT ROTC Honor Guard with the presentation of the flag. Please be seated as the Honor Guard presents the flag to Mrs. Royal. Now, Dr. Ball.
Darrell and Edith have both been so actively involved as sponsors and promoters of rehabilitation programs around Austin. It seemed fitting that we should all join in sharing making the Benediction, the Serenity Prayer, which is such a vital part of those programs. Will you stand and join with me in our closing benediction? God grant us the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Once again, thank you all for being here, and we have one more piece of business. Once, after a loss on the road when the Texas crowd was sparse, Coach Royal made a commitment that he would never travel again without the Longhorn Band and his friend, their director, Vince Donino. And so shall it be today, as Dr. Donino, at the spunky age of 93, and the Longhorn Band and cheerleaders send us off in Royal style with the eyes of Texas.